Hi, this is Nishant Malhotra, author of the book Global Development Impact and also the startup The Middle Road. What's so excellent about The Middle Road is that you have now a lot of online courses which are free. You can just go to www.themiddleroad.org. The podcasts have always been free, the webinars, and now a lot of articles, almost all the articles, including instruction reads, are free. So you can just go there, no registration required. And today I'm going to be talking about my book. I'm going to be talking about one of the chapters, which is going to be on structured finance. This is going to be a very small video. You could look at, you could buy the book. There's a website, globaldevelopmentimpact.com, and the book is on Amazon. It's on card, and you get the links there. You can go to any of the platforms and you'll find the book. Today I'm going to share a bit about structured finance and why it's important and how it is being used within the global development sector. Okay, so this is the book. Like I spoke about the global development impact. I'm going to be talking only about the book. This is a bit about what the global development impact is all about. Look at it's a whole lot on social finance. So if you look at, let's talk about ESG, but predominantly it's a very focused thing on structured finance. It talks about climate finance. It talks about sustainable bonds, structured finance and products, structured products, various kinds of carbon pricing, and how it's being used within the development sector. And what's a great thing is written in a piece as a narrative. Book takes case studies which are very live from IFC, for example. Structured finance. Now, structured finance is increasingly used in development finance. This has been there going on for a long period of time, and multilateral institutions, they focus a lot on doing structured finance to mobilize private capital for emerging markets. Very specifically, they could do it for any markets, but very specifically for emerging markets. So let's talk about the key factors. One is, of course, capital mobilization at scale. So this is structured finance unlocks private capital for development projects. One. Secondly is risk management. Now we talk about tranching and credit enhancement, de-risk investments within the frontier market. Very important topic. Although I've not covered in depth, I still have touched upon these topics. And these are very important to understand the latest social innovation, financial innovation that's going on. Then it opens up international markets. It opens up international markets. Now this is another very key point when you talk about structured finance. Then like blended finance, the book talks a lot about blended finance. It's sort of as a way of blended finance. It combines concessional public funds for commercial capital and the real world impact. So it's got a lot of examples from the World Bank, very major multilaterals, and how it's getting implemented. Now it's not only from the multilaterals, it could be from various actors within the development sector, how they support sustainable development goals and climate finance goals. We talk about asset pooling. So you have to understand what is an asset pooling. You have to understand the process in which financial institutions pool their assets together to generate predictable cash flows. Assets may include mortgages, loans, receivables, and other financial instruments. Two most important criteria which I've shown is mortgage-backed securities and asset-backed securities. For asset-backed securities, you have like credit card receivables, auto loans, student loans. So these are how you would divide into two broad categories. Here is that instead of keeping these loans on your balance sheet, institutions bundle them together and transform them into tradable securities. We come to a very important idea of special purpose vehicle. I've not discussed now this slide in a lot in detail, but it's one of the best de-risking strategies. Matter most. This is one of the most important things, is because if the originator goes bankrupt, the SPV's assets are protected, safeguarding investor returns. These are assets that are transferred into a special purpose vehicle, which is why you call this a special purpose vehicle. The SPV, which is known as legal entity, it's separate from the originator, and this separation is actually where it isolates the credit risk and allows investors to evaluate the assets independently. So this is very important, that the credit risk which we talk about, that is totally different as compared to, it sort of it gives a different credit risk as compared to the original issuer. So this is very important for special purpose vehicle. Now, when we talk about tranching, now I've put a bit of credit enhancement structures also. When we talk about tranching, now this is what predominantly what I'm talking about here, like a waterfall structure where the investors with different risk appetites can now participate in financial structure, but the cash flows are very different and the mitigation strategy. There are different layers which you go in. Of course, the first is the senior tranche, which has got the lowest risk and it's also the first to receive payments. So that is what the is. Then you have mezzanine tranche, which is moderate risk and high return for it's got a higher return than a senior tranche. What is the junior or the equity tranche? Now this has got the highest risk. It's the first loss absorber. The first loss is always taken by the equity or the junior tranche, and that's why it's got the highest potential return. Now, what's very interesting is this particular site is where multilaterals will invest in. You want to pool in private capital. Junior tranche, usually junior or tranche is where the multilaterals will invest. Even they could be investing in mezzanine tranche, but they'll never be within the senior tranche. The senior tranche is for private investors who are very risk averse. How the risk mitigation strategy comes out with tranching. One of the most important tools which is being used is credit enhancement. The structure uses this to make securities more attractive to investors. That's what I said, that tranching is a method which is known as subordination. And the riskiest tranches are taken by multilaterals, whereas the safest ones go to private capital. In this way, you can drive in socio-economic or climate interventions, which private investors would never come in. So this sort of helps you in leveraging capital, raising capital investors. This sort of ways they reduce the perceived risk, so they enhance the credit rating, which is directly linked to the cost of capital. The credit rating, the lesser is the cost of borrowing. So that's how this works out. These ways which I talked about, only you can have over collateralization, wherein the assets exceed the liabilities. Now, this is one way. So, what you do is, like, let's say if you have more assets than liabilities, one way is that this gives you a buffer even before going to the junior tranche. So, extra buffer which comes before the junior tranche is by doing over collateralization. So, this is very important. You have excess spreads, basically the interest rate what you're earning on the assets minus what's going to dispose. So if you have that also as an excess, it sort of helps you. So this is some of the internal credit enhancement mechanisms, like I talked about subordination. Of course, you have external ones, whereas guarantee. So let's say if you get a guarantee from a leading multilateral bank, it could be a World Bank, it could be part of a World Bank group like IFC or Asian Development Bank or any other bank, multilateral bank, enhances your credit rating as well, and it opens the doors to investors which you would never had. The external guarantees. Let's talk about guarantees from institutions like major multilaterals. Another major factor, like I spoke about, enhances the credit rating and it opens up new places, new sectors, or new markets investors. So this is another part of credit enhancement mechanisms. I come to the page of, so this is the book. I've got this poster about me and the book. An excellent read. If you want to read a book which is written in a narrative style, but goes in depth into ESG, the of ESG happened over a period of time, key milestones, with an intense take on social finance, various kinds of social finance, may it be impact finance, it could be structured finance, which I talked about, sustainable bonds, carbon pricing, or how complex structured products are making a difference. I think this is the book for you. This is a fantastic read. It's read for everybody. It's not like it's focused only on one particular group. If you want to reach out to me, you can for speaking engagements. These are some of the topics which I can talk about. You can always write to me at nishant4esg@gmail.com and nishant at themiddleroad.org. So the mobile number which I have given, it's also on WhatsApp. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can check out Nishant Malhotra on LinkedIn, and you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. And the book. I love your feedback, and I thank you for that. Thanks.